being transgender doesn't allow you to be as superficial as others. It makes you deep. And, you know, being superficial is actually a privilege. I never really thought about it like that. But, here's the deal, right? For most of the time, people spend life in a superficial realm. It's kind of the area that people operate in. Because going deep requires trust, requires a little bit of energy and work, and it makes a person vulnerable. In a transgender story, there's so much more than meets the eye. It's never what you see, what you get. It just never is, and that's kind of weird to think about. That to live this life, there's always gonna be complicated answers. And that's cool in some ways, you know, you get to really cause a lot of thought within yourself and within others. But that is annoying sometimes because thinking a lot can really take a lot of energy. I know people that they just look like how they are. You know? It's like you see them and you're like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, pretty good. What do you do for work? I'm a carpenter. Oh wow, cool. You know, and they look like a carpenter. You know, it looks like they use the hammer a lot. They got muscle, they smoke, they drink coffee. Okay, cool. You know, and then people say, are you in college or in high school? And I'll think, I'm not in college or high school. That happened to me recently when I got my hair cut. I was like, oh, maybe I'll try and get the student discount. And then when they asked me if I was in high school, I was like, dang. And that's a big difference between 18 and 30 plus. So being perceived at a dramatically different age creates this new kind of interaction where I can keep it superficial, but it requires a little bit of like make-believe. And realistically, even though I'm so thankful for all these changes that hormone therapy brings, I don't think I'll ever be quite the man that I pictured that I would be, or I'll never embody a person that I really see and feel myself as. You know, I'll be close. I'll be as close as I can get, but you know, I pictured myself, well, I relate to being a very large, you know, mountain man with broad shoulders and maybe over 6 feet tall. And those are changes that really aren't gonna come even with all the help in the world, you know. And besides that, who pays for that sort of thing? Like, make every little thing exactly how you want. That's kind of weird. So anyway, you know, I just accept my lot, and I am a mountain man. I know that, but people aren't gonna be like, oh dang, yeah, it looks like you spent all your life hiking, even though I have, you know, or swinging an axe or whatever. You know, people are not going to be impressed with my external experience and relate it to the person that I am. And that's interesting to live with because it allows me to be less superficial, because what is superficially visible is just a little bit less like me. Let's say you see a guy and he hasn't shaved for a while and he's just kind of like coming to work and he's like, and he's like, oh, I don't give a shit what I look like. I don't care what people think. It's such a lie, because he would care if he looked, you know, like some little shrimpy person that couldn't grow a beard. Like, he would care, but because he looks like how he feels, he doesn't care. And that's the thing about being trans, is people might think you're really concerned with how you look and all this, but everybody is concerned about how they look. It's kind of part of being alive, is caring about how you look and being healthy and that sort of thing. And when you really don't match, then you think about it more. And you know what the superficial world does? Is it looks at any trans person at any point in the journey, takes a little snapshot, and boom, that's you. You know, they can meet you when you're in your birth body and be like, oh yeah, I know him, I know her, right? It's pretty straightforward, except that the him and her is all mixed up. Or they could know you when you fully blend in with everybody else, and they could say like, oh yeah, I know him, right? If they're talking about me, but there's a little more to that story. It's not just like every other him in the world. Or The worst is when they see you in the middle of your awkward transition, and that's who you are. All of a sudden, you're that guy that walks down the street in a dress, or you're that girl that, you know, shaved her head, and whoa, who knows about that person? And it's terrible because, I mean, that's superficial. That's a privilege. That's just what people do. You know, they create these things. But for the transgender story, those things are often just incorrect. Here's my question for you. What's something that seems really easy for everybody else, but for you it's just a little extra because you're transgender?